You have the remaining 6 minutes.
Thank you. Ignore the reality of climate change and you risk dislocating the world economy to a greater extent than was dislocated in the Great Depression, World War I or World War II. The Stern report on the economics of climate change presented to the British government in 2006. In fact, the author of the report says that he underestimated the position. The World Health Organization say that 250,000 human beings may die every year from issues related now to climate change, such as malaria, malnutrition and heat stress. And what this discussion needs to be focused on far more, is the key question. Is a world organised as it is, with resources, including energy resources, controlled by a tiny capitalist elite, compatible with sustainable sustainable environmental policies? Now, I believe that big business and its drive for profit is the #1 threat to the environment in the world today. The Climate Change Journal said in 2013 that 90 major companies were between them responsible for 63% of the cumulative global emissions in the world in the last 250 years. Count Corla, the collapse of the Stalinist dictatorships in Russia and Eastern Europe, whose own environmental records were disgraceful, gave way to capitalist globalisation in the 90s and noughties, with capital free to move to wherever labour costs were lowest or environmental regulations the flimsiest. So that as early as the early noughties, a World Trade Organization official could boast that the WTO was enabling challenges to almost any measure designed to reduce global gas emissions. And by 2011, the London-based think tank, the Carbon Tracker Initiative, was able to state that big energy multinational corporations now owned and controlled 2,795 gigatons of carbon. Now let's put that in context, because in order to keep global temperatures to the 2 degrees Celsius max by 2015 that has been mentioned, the most amount of carbon that can be used up and burned is 565 gigatons. In other words, 1/5 of what these corporations are saying that they're going to burn in order to put forward their prospectus on the stock exchanges and so on. Deputy Kenny quoted Naomi Klein. I'll give a quote as well from her excellent book. She says, "The industry has announced to its shareholders that they have determined to burn 5 times more fossil fuel than the planet's atmosphere can begin to absorb." And these big business interests are controlling government policies, hugely shaping them. In the US alone in 2013, big oil and big gas spent $400,000 a day lobbying Congress and government officials. So pro-market governments tweak the situation, no more than that. That is why we've had 19 climate change conferences since 1992 without major progress on these issues. And the last conference, the Paris conference, the final document did not even mention the phrase fossil fuels and made recommendations which were not binding on governments. So it's clear that bold measures are needed, bold measures which strike against the agenda of the profiteers. We need massive investment internationally in public transport. We need massive public investment in renewables. We need to step up massively the research in green energy, and that will only come about through public investment. We need to convert the car industry to renewable sources of power. Again, public ownership necessary for that. How can these measures be funded? A 1% billionaires tax, according to the United Nations, could raise $46 billion. A moderate global financial transactions tax, transactions of shares, derivatives, according to the European Parliament, could raise €650 billion. But of course, Count Corla, you cannot control what you do not own. And in order to rationally plan to defend living standards but to have sustainable environmental policies, it will be necessary that big oil, big gas, the car industry, the banks and the 170 or so giant multinationals that control 40% of the world economy be taken into public ownership under popular democratic control, a glimpse of the wealth that would be available to promote and defend the environment was shown by the wealth hidden away in tax havens by the Panama Papers. In conclusion, I'll say that just over 100 years ago, the great Polish socialist Rosa Luxemburg, speaking on the subject of capitalist militarism and World War I, said that the choice facing humanity was a choice between socialism and barbarism. I believe, in the context of the looming global environmental crisis, that her comments are perhaps even more relevant today. Thank you.